The opinions expressed by tonight's guest do not represent the opinions or position of Spaced Out Radio, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with SOR Media. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for the archive. But we break on command 'cause women rule the world. Buckle up, space travelers. Let the countdown begin.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time to go for a ride with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over Phoenix, Arizona. Get sucked into the vortex and settle down snugly at the base of South Mountain. It is Sunday, June 10th, June 11th. For those of you on the East Coast and beyond, this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had an awesome day and an even better evening. I am your host, Tessa Nicole Thomas, live from Bayfield here in beautiful Colorado. Actually, we're in Arizona today. I just got back from California. We are 150,000 strong nightly on SOR Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, and we are also live on the Fringe FM, so make sure you check out the amazing programming at thefringe.com. Don't forget to head to our website, spacedoutradio.com. You can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store and read the encounter online dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. You can also check out some great videos from Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV. Tonight, I have a treat for all you guys and gals out there. Tonight we were speaking with Lauralee Green. Lauralee is an amazing psychic, and she is known for her genuine down-to-earth approach of life that empowers others through her work. As a spiritual teacher, psychic healer, author, and lecturer, over the last 20 years she has helped thousands with her psychic ability to predict the future outcomes and reveal details about a person's life that brings greater awareness and understanding. Lauralee didn't start using her psychic ability until age 29 when she was introduced to the psychic world through a spiritualist church in East Hartford, Connecticut. As a child, she appeared to be very lucky and could recall information easily. She holds a bachelor's degree in computer science, and over the years, she discovered her natural ability for problem solving and transferred this to people problem solving when she realized she was able to intuitively solve people's problems. She also teaches psychic development and wrote How to Develop Your Psychic Senses to prove how easy it can be to access your intuition. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Lauralee. I'm so grateful that you're here with us.
Thanks for having me, Tessa. I'm glad to be here.
So to start off with, how long have you known that you've had this gift?
I didn't start using it until I was 29 because I had people that were aware of intuition, and my parents read a lot of things about UFOs, Uri Geller, pyramid, lots of phenomena and alternate realities, science fiction. But yet I didn't have a good mentor or teacher. So I didn't know until I met my husband, who was a computer programmer. And he encouraged me to go to a spiritualist church and to listen to what they call message works, where they just tune in and give a message to each of the people that were there. And my message was to take psychic development classes. And from that day forward, I began to use my abilities.
That's awesome. Did you find it difficult at first to build on it? Did you find any blocks or anything that you felt may have gotten in your way at all?
I think the biggest thing that got in my way was that I was unaware of how to turn it on. It was like a light switch for me. I did take a 6-week course, but the very first class, the first hour, I was aware totally how to do this, and I was bored the rest of the time because it seemed so easy to me. All I had to do was have someone teach me that we all have an intuition, a gut feeling, and that we're constantly using it all the time. And more of it was just trying different experiments to prove that I could do it. One was holding an object and tuning in and listening to whatever impressions I got. And that was my first experience to picking up images, pictures, words, feeling, taste, smell. And I was amazed how quickly I got the information.
That's awesome. I haven't really ever tried anything such as, trying to pick up things from pictures or objects. I do get a general reading of, my surrounding area and different things that may be in it. But I totally agree with you on, everyone being born with some sort of intuition or gut feeling. Some people could call it primal instinct. But yeah, it's very interesting how that works. When you were growing up as a girl, what were your beliefs, or what beliefs were you raised in, and did your family know about your gifts and nurture you or support you in any way?
I was raised Welsh Presbyterian, which is a takeoff of the Catholic Church for those that aren't aware of it. And we weren't super religious, but my parents felt we needed some kind of structure spiritually. And the biggest lesson or input, I think, was from my aunt. She was an avid reader, and she would buy all sorts of books and information about phenomenon, and we would receive those books as a gift after she was done reading them. So growing up in the country, we were in a small town of 1,500 people, and there weren't anyone that I knew that was using their intuition, so I didn't have anyone to compare it to. I seemed to have a really great luck streak when I was playing strategy games, card games, word games, board games. I won a lot, and I didn't even think about why I won. I wrote it off to my learning the strategies of the games, when in fact I think a lot of it had to do with my intuition and being able to memorize things or bring back the information that I received initially. But for the biggest example, my father was reading a book on pyramid power, and he put a razor blade underneath this cardboard pyramid that he built based on the dimensions from the book. And he swore that the razor blade was sharper the next day. So there was those types of examples. And with my mother, her mother and her could douse for water. And that was something that they believed in, but they weren't able to use their intuition in other ways. But for them, they could walk over a piece of property, and with a forked stick, they would know exactly where the water was the strongest, and they would tell the well driller to drill in that place, and they always found this very strong vein of water.
When I was a child, after my mother was killed by a drunk driver, and my dad was having a hard time with it, and shortly after sent us to live with our grandparents. And my grandma was pretty old school, and she actually taught us how to douse for water using a stick. And I've heard that certain sticks work better than others when doing this. But later on in life, I discovered dowsing rods that were made out of copper with like a plastic handle. And those were my first paranormal investigation tool. And they worked so well for me, and I always assumed it was the spirit, answering yes or no or going through the alphabet. But I learned later on that it could be the spirit, like, sending the message through me and my intuitive, like, clicks or whatever that would control the dowsing rods, even though you're trying to hold perfectly still.
Right.
Have you ever used copper dowsing rods?
I have. I'm not big on using the dowsing rods to get the answers because my main way of receiving is clairvoyant, which is a French word for clear seeing. And I just pick up impressions, whether they're pictures, words, sounds, feeling, taste, smell, all of the senses. But mostly I don't have a particular tool that I need to get the information. But once in a while, I'll use the rods more for demonstration so I can show people that they're emanating out an energy, and that as soon as my energy intersects or overlaps in their energy, then the dowsing rods can measure that. So they have a scientific reason for what I'm doing. So usually for first-time readers, I'll do that. They've never had a reading and they're just puzzled or unsure or don't know how it works. So I'll explain to them that they're sending out an energy already. I'll joke with them and I say, "Oh, you're oozing all over my chair right now." And they usually laugh and I say, "Don't worry, I'll clean it up later," so that they will feel relaxed and not self-conscious about it, because they don't know that they're always sending out energy even before they came to me for a reading.
That's interesting. And everybody does have certain energies. How would a person protect their energy or themselves from someone with a negative energy, or perhaps like a energy vampire or someone that has ill will towards them?
That's an excellent question about protecting yourself. Because I believe there's energy all around us all the time, positive and negative, I like to give an example of holding your hands in front of you. Let's say your left hand is the negative and the right hand is the positive. When you think a negative thought, the left hand comes closer to your face and is more prominent, and you're able to focus on it more. But if you think a positive thought, the right hand comes closer and you're looking at that. So it's more just a visual aid to show you that you set your intention. You're sending out to the universe to focus on a particular thought, idea, energy, feeling. And I always recommend that people think a happy thought. When I use the dowsing rods, I say, okay, think of something you're not so comfortable with, and don't tell me, just think that thought. And I'll walk towards them, and sometimes I can walk right up next to them. And I say, don't worry, you're not dead. You're just not sending out too much energy because you don't like this thought. So shake it off. And then I tell them, think about winning $1 million. And then I step way back because usually that opens their energy tremendously. And then I'll walk towards them and show them that I can't walk as close because their energy has expanded and they're sending out a much happier, more content vibrational frequency. And the dowsing rods can measure it much further away.
So if somebody's wanting to, open the door to their spiritual gifts, or if they know a particular gift that they may have or experiences that they've had, how would one build upon that? Where would you start?
The first thing I tell my students or a client that wants to learn, I'll say, you've got to believe. And it's not about a religious belief. It's about, first of all, trusting, feeling comfortable, being curious enough without filtering it with doubt. If they're open to it, then it becomes very easy to open to the concepts of intuition. Now, the next thing I would say is try to ask a question and look for confirmation immediately after. If they send out a thought with their intention, I want to know if it's a good thing to go to the grocery store and pick up water. Well, maybe it's a traffic jam and they need to stay home or wait for the accident to clear, and their answer is no, and they're like, but I need to pick up water. And so I'd say, okay, let's look on your smartphone or the computer or ask Siri about the location where you'd pick up the water, and then they could verify if there was a traffic problem. So they're getting confirmation immediately so that then they can see that what they've set out to get an answer for has a logical answer as well as an intuitive, so they can prove to themselves that it's something they did receive rather than a thought that they weren't sure if they made it up or they kind of guessed at it.
That's very interesting, and I do agree with you on that. You do have to believe in yourself and have faith in yourself, and I tell people that a lot, and especially when they are dealing with a negative entity. I believe that they are stronger than the entity that is trying to make them feel, not so strong, like this entity is more powerful than them. Do you agree with that, or do you think there are entities out there that are more powerful?
I feel like when we send out a vibrational frequency, that the similar frequencies to that are going to manifest and draw and be magnetized towards the person. So when someone's fearful, their energy's more lower vibration, denser, and it's easier for those negative energies to come closer and hang out with that person, that their energy is very much similar. But it doesn't mean that someone that's thinking a not so happy thought is going to draw that constantly or even draw it at all, but the chances are easier. It's like the law of attraction. What we focus on expands. So the energies are able to communicate and come closer to the person. So yes, I do agree that there's an issue there. But the one thing that I've learned is if people want to protect themselves, they're going to have a filter, a shield, a block, a barrier from the negative. My example would be policemen or engineers or people that are constantly in their head thinking logically because they're not as aware of the intuition, or they're filtering it out with not a disbelief, but a shielding because they've been imprinted to think rather than feel or sense things. And I'm not saying all of those professions keep out the intuition, but those particular ones especially have blocked them out.
Do you think it's a good idea for someone who is dealing with a negative entity to try and rewire themselves. You know, a lot of times when they are around that negative energy, it does interfere with their life, and you know, it'll cause you to fight with your significant other when you generally don't, or to respond quickly with anger-filled, you know, words. Do you think it's possible for someone to work on it long enough to rewire, stop and breathe, and come back with a positive response, and after a matter of time, you rewire yourself to be positive?
I believe the rewiring is essential. I don't know as I would use the word rewiring, but that's actually a really good way to imagine changing the vibration. I tell people that it's like a computer. If you think of a thumb drive or some means of storing information, even in a library in a book, to get rid of what's already in there is to overlay it or to rewrite it so that the new imprints, the new programming is what gets accessed first. Think of it as going down a highway or well-worn tire tracks in a field. It's automatic that we go down a certain way because it's so familiar. We're so used to going that way. But to go to what's more positive and good sometimes seems a little awkward because we haven't created a neurological pathway to the brain as much. And so, yes, the more we focus on that new pathway, the more that becomes common and automatic to go to something positive. And then in turn, that it's like a lighthouse. It's going to send out a beacon of really bright light for more higher vibrations to come and gather and to support that person.
So when someone's wanting to build and develop their psychic senses, what are the steps for preparation that you would recommend?
I have a formula I call the MEDS formula, MEDS. I created that because I thought it's easier to remember to take medicine. So if I said, why don't you take your meds? We don't want to take the pharmaceutical meds, but it starts with M is for meditation, and then the E is for exercise, and the D is for diet, but more a way of eating that helps keep you clear, and the S is for sleep. To me, that helps ground a person. If they're meditating, they're taking time to clear their mind, their body, their senses, and there's no set amount of time that's exact. I've had people clear themselves in minutes or instantly. They go, okay, I'm focused. Others will take at least 20 minutes. I've heard the statistic is 23.5 minutes to clear what you've been previously thinking about. And so it takes some time to refocus and redirect the thinking. And then with the exercise, moving the physical body so that the energy that gets collected and gathered and stuck in the auric field can move through the natural chi, the prana, the life force as we breathe in and out. And through exercise, that helps that flow around and through the body. Now, the diet, you don't need to be a vegan or a plant-based diet person. You can just eat healthier. But the more you focus on keeping out the sugars, the white flour, the white rice, the things that are going to bog down a system and knock out the nutrients and different supplements within the body will feel lighter and be easier to operate and receive impressions when the food is in a way that's more nutritious and helpful to the whole system. Now, the S for sleep, a lot of people don't get enough sleep because with technology we can stay up all night binging on Netflix or Hulu or whatever programs you have, Amazon. I'm not sure today what all of the systems, but yet the more we take out time to rest and refresh the body, the easier it is to tune into the intuition, because then the senses have had a time to be more alert and refreshed.
A lot of people that I talk with have issues with meditation and silencing their mind. When someone meditates, do you think they need to silence their mind and just make it blank, or do you believe that they need to focus on a certain something? And I'm not sure what the answer is because I'm not good at meditation either. But could you give us some pointers on that?
That's an awesome question, Tessa, because I had a very difficult time with meditation when I first was introduced to it. And I'm not one of those people that sits there with my index finger touching my thumb and quoting or chanting, Om Mani Padme Hum. I do not do that well at all. So what I would recommend is not focusing on any particular mantra or trying to clear the mind. In fact, I have only once in my life for like a 2-hour period, because I was at a workshop, had my mind totally cleared. I was talking to my guides and saying, talk to me. And they're like, no, you're at the workshop. You're not supposed to think of anything. So they wouldn't even talk to me. But the key with that, it was too much thinking for me to clear my mind entirely. So I need to just keep moving my physical body. I would suggest for people that like movement, the Buddhist moving meditation, where they're focused on consciously feeling and sensing their feet or their environment around them. Some people do well with Tai Chi or Qigong. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that properly. Others like to hear some type of music in the background so they can let their mind go off with the crescendo of the notes. I find if there's too much melody, too much words with the music, that a person is distracted, and especially musicians, they're going to be analyzing the sounds and the tones because that's what they're naturally drawn to do, is not just to listen to it, but to criticize it or look at it in many different ways. So those are the people I say, no, we're going to give you a set of music that's almost monotone, because it's not important to analyze it while you're trying to clear your mind. I think whatever way that a person feels clearing their mind works for them. Some people I've found like doodling. They're not working on an artist piece. They're just scratching on a piece of paper, and to them, that's clearing their mind. I love cooking, and if I want to clear my energy, I'm not having a good day, I've got some anger or issues going on, I'll go in the kitchen and start creating something, and all of a sudden there's a calm or peacefulness that comes over me because it's such a joy for me. I just enjoy it so much. So the answer is not a very easy answer. In the book I wrote, I gave lots of varieties of ways to do so. Some people like watching the flame of a candle because they want their eyes open, they want to be doing something, they want to concentrate, and the candle can be very soothing. Some people use aromatherapy. Others will take a hot bath, or even some would appreciate the Bikram yoga, which is the hot yoga, so that their whole body is open and relaxed. So I don't have a direct answer for you. I think I've given you a variety of information there, but each person's different in how they settle themselves.
Yeah, and I agree. Not the same medicine works for everyone, so different techniques are great to know, so they can go through the process. Well, this doesn't work for me, so maybe I can try this or whatnot. So that's some really great pointers. Thanks a lot for that. And then receiving was another topic that we had discussed. What exactly is receiving? Is that receiving a message from perhaps your guide, or is that receiving a message from your gut or yourself? What exactly is receiving?
To me, when a person is tuning into their intuition, it's like asking for a record of someone or something. Some people tune into animals, some are looking for lost objects, some are looking for answers in their life. So to me, receiving is not about going to the library to retrieve an object. or information, but asking and setting an intention to ask the Akashic Record Library, or whatever, I call it the big C. I think of it like a computer, like Google, that I can have this invisible library that I could look up things. So not looking it up on a physical computer, but to send out my intention to pick up impressions. So I will send a thought and I'll ask a question, or I'll send it an intention to tune into someone particular, and then I'll listen. So to me, receiving is feeling, sensing, hearing, smelling, tasting, all of the senses, but not trying to think of something, not trying to go out and logically analyze anything.
Do you ever find that it's easier to give others information and advice and harder to give yourself information and advice?
That's a great question, too, because I get a lot of people that are intuitives want to come for a session because they feel they can't read themselves. I personally have found a way to get myself out of the way. So what I'll do is set my intention and say, I want to have the answer to this particular question, and set my intention that the very next thought that pops in my head will be my intuition, that it won't be me thinking the thought, not retrieving my own memories, but receiving the answer. And so I've been able to do that on a consistent basis and have it be accurate. For other people, I find they overthink things. Let's say, for instance, I had a guide that was encouraging me to exercise, and I would hear a voice in my head say, it's time to exercise. And I'd be tired, I'd be getting ready for bed, and I'd say, no, I want to go to bed. And the voice would say, you would feel better if you exercise more often. Let's do some exercise. And to me, I was arguing with the voice because I didn't want to exercise. So I knew It was my intuition. But some people would say, well, that's common. Of course I would tell myself to exercise because it's an important factor in keeping me conditioned and well into my health. And so they'll overthink it and say, oh, well, I could have thought that up. It must have been me. I produced the thought logically. When in fact it was their intuition encouraging them and trying to give them this nudge or impression that there's something that would be good for them to do. So it can be confusing to read oneself because the voice that I hear is several different tones other than my own voice, but some people will hear their own identical voice echoing back in their head, even if it's their intuition from the higher self, or the what I call the thin veil between the worlds, the other side of life. And so they'll logically say, oh, well, that's my voice, so it must not be my intuition because that's what I sound like.
Yeah, I find that I can give people amazing advice, and then when I try to give myself advice, I just have issues trusting myself because I feel like maybe I'm trying to mislead myself instead of just, trusting in me, and I'm trying to do the right thing for myself. And so, yeah, I've been working on that the last couple years. Trust yourself. You do have your best, your best knowledge or your best intent in mind and the best for you. So it's pretty funny how that works. We can give that advice to others, but it's hard for us to kind of swallow the medicine. Maybe I'm misleading myself when I want to make myself think this can be better than it really is. And so don't doubt yourself and believe in yourself and believe. That's the key, right?
Got to believe.
You got to believe.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the word trust. In my book, there's a section about that in the receiving chapter where I tell people to trust 100%. That it's not easy to trust because the brain goes, well, what if it's this? What if it's that? How do I know this is real? And the first class I took, we were doing psychometry, which is holding an object. And I got the image of a Doberman pinscher's head barking. And I said to myself, well, I don't know what this means because the girl next to me did not look ugly. I was brought up that if someone said you are a dog, that meant you were ugly. And she wasn't ugly.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't quite interpret what the dog barking meant. And I finally said to her, I'm not sure what I'm getting, but I see this dog's head barking. And she goes, oh, yes. I bark at my employees all the time. So it was an analogy or an impression that I needed to feel the feelings, because the dog wasn't violent, it wasn't vicious, it was just barking. And so I have over the years learned how to interpret those signs and symbols, and it became very much easier. But sometimes it's not vanilla. It's not directly the words or the impressions that you get identical to what you know. So there's a little bit of trying to understand what you're receiving.
Yeah. I try, to listen to my gut because the mind seems to be overactive. And like you were saying, what if this, what if that, this could be it, or yada yada. And the heart, being the soft, mushy thing it is, wants to have that faith in things and, think of the romantic side of it. But I find that the gut has never led me astray. And I'm very grateful for my gut instinct and being able to hear that still small voice in my mind. And it is funny how we do have different voices in there. Mine are kind of animated depending on what the mood is. But yeah, it is very interesting. And how, like you said, there's different tones and different variations. And, you could scare yourself thinking, hey, I have multiple personalities, but that's not the case. It's just your mind
Right.
and the creative entity that it is. And it's amazing what our minds can do. And if we can just tap into that other 90% of it, think of the things we could do. It would be amazing.
Yes. I have another story relating to trusting 100%. One of the first psychic fairs I did in the public, I had a gentleman come to me and he said, I have a decision to make. Can you help me? Well, I thought that was a pretty vague question, but as a psychic and being new at it, I thought to myself, well, I'm the psychic. I should know the answer to that. So I closed my eyes, and the first thought that popped in my head was, the man wants to sell his house in Guatemala. Well, I'm living in Connecticut at the time. I knew about Maine, New York. I'm trying to think what else. New Hampshire, the surrounding area. I didn't even know where on the world map Guatemala was or what a Guatemalan would look like. And he looked like a normal Caucasian. So I said to him, I think you want to sell your house in Guatemala. And he goes, yes, I do. And I almost fell off the chair because I was shocked that it was so accurate. And I had no idea how to confirm it except to trust and say it out loud because I wasn't receiving anything else.
That's very interesting. Another thing we were talking about is blockages. How can one figure out what exactly their blockage is, and how do you deal with a blockage?
Trying to figure out a blockage yourself may be a challenge if you're not as sure how to receive the information about it. If you've already learned how to use your intuition and you have the knowledge of what confirmation feels like, then I'd say go ahead and ask your higher self or set your intention to say, tell me about my blockages. And then you just listen for the answer that comes to you. But if you're not sure what those blockages are, I would suggest you practice with a friend that is intuitive, or maybe go to a psychic fair or look up psychics on the web so that they can tune in and see what's slowing you down or stopping you. But sometimes it's about setting your intention before you go to bed at night And once you're in the sleep state, allowing the dreams to give you the answer, you wake up and you know what the particular dream means, that's a blockage that's holding you back. I find once people just say to themselves, I can do this, then they begin to wipe out the things that are slowing them down from receiving their intuition. I had one student that was very much in his head and thinking logically, and I gave him one statement. I said, don't think, feel. And when he switched from thinking over to feeling, then he was able to open up his whole senses instantly, and he no longer had a blockage from receiving the intuition. It was like a miracle. That's why I say it can be like a light switch. It doesn't have to be difficult, but sometimes it's about our belief system. Some people that are very religious may have some of that doctrine nagging at them. Oh, I don't know if I can do this, if it's against my beliefs. Some people will say, if I use my intuition, it's going to be evil. I'll be picking up spirits that I don't want to pick up, so they have fears they have to supersede. There could be many different things that have happened to them in their upbringing or even their adult life that pushes against them and says, oh, I don't know if I want to open up this box. And I think one of the biggest blockages that I've heard many times over is when people, when they were early on receiving their intuition and impressions, mostly premonitions, they picked up one of the more denser, heavier energies of someone that was going to die, and that person passed on, and then they blamed themselves because they were able to pick it up and they thought they caused the death of the person. And from then on, they began to suppress their ability and not want to tune in because it caused a lot of pain for them.
I can relate to that, yeah. I lost my mom when I was 5, almost 6, and shortly before she was killed by a drunk driver, I received a punishment. And, you know, being a little kid, I was angry about it and was in my room, and I said, I hate her, I wish she would die. And right as soon as I said that, I got this weird feeling, and I was like, no, I don't wish that. Like, I love my mom and this and this and that and that. And for years, I did feel like it was my fault, you know, being that young and naive. But yeah, it's amazing how your belief system and, you know, what age of development or wherever you may be, even as an adult, we blame ourselves when we lose friends to suicide. There's something I could have done. There's something, you know, I could have been there for them, but I wasn't. I was too busy with life and this and this and that and that. But, yeah, I have seen that personally, and I can relate to that. But, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and, you know, things that happen to us, I find, happen for a reason. Whether they're good or bad, the experience makes us who we are. Do you agree that everything happens for a reason, or do you have a different belief system?
I do believe that same statement, that everything that we're experiencing gives us some type of interaction or exploration or adventure or some encounter for our soul to experience what life is like in a physical body. So when people say, well, what's my life's purpose? Sometimes I say, it's not what you have to accomplish this lifetime, but what kind of experience you want to have before you expire. So there's a concept that we do have certain lessons we want to explore being in a body, but it's not necessary that we absolutely learn each and every one of those things that we've set in motion. It's what our determination of being physical was, and if we can accomplish it, then our soul would have grown tremendously. But it's not something that we need to every day going, oh my God, am I on track? Did I do everything right yet? that would drive us crazy trying to do everything just right. So I say just think of it as one big adventure. It's a journey that when we get to the end, we'll slide in all used up and experienced and say, whoa, what a ride.
Yeah. So when you talk about clearing, is that part of clearing your blockages or clearing your mind? What exactly to you is clearing?
I think of clearing my mind and my vibration, because once those are clear, then the vibrational frequency I'm emanating out is going to clear my environment and make like a super highway, like an internet connection, only spiritually, back and forth to the all that is, where the information resides, because the information is not necessarily right next to me, but it's accessible in a nanosecond. To me, it doesn't take a lot of time to go get that information because I'm receiving it. It's being sent to me. I just have to direct what things I want to know about so that it can arrive. So the clearing is more getting rid of my doubts, worries, fears, the things that would slow down my ability to open up and be ready to receive.
So you talk about psychic defense or psychic self-defense. What are some of the keys, points, or tools that one would use to psychically defend themselves? And, what are the steps that they can do to attain that?
Well, mostly I tell them to think in a way that they're fully protected, that they don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time or money getting tools or things that they think they need. Like a lot of people want to buy crystals because to them that's protecting, because it's going to enhance their energy and change the vibration. I do suggest that crystals are a help, but they're not necessary. But more breaking down the patterns that we've created. I can't do this. I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe I can't get something. So more just reprogramming that it's possible, and mostly getting them to practice tuning in to prove that it's that much easier than they thought it was. Sometimes I tell people to create a white light and surround themselves with it, because to them a white light feels safe. It feels warm, comfortable, calm, serene. There's not really a right way to protect oneself. Some people talk about imagining themselves with a three-way mirror, and then that's in front of them so that any energy that they don't want will rebound off. It's more just psychologically feeling a certain way. And if they just feel safe, then that's going to help create the defense they need to filter anything negative or poltergeists or earthbounds, things that are out there that they don't want to pick up on. Mostly I tell people just set your intention, send out a thought. I only want the highest and the best. And that's as easy as it gets. They don't have to do a lot of ritual and ceremony. I tune in when somebody calls and says, "You got time now?" And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Let me take a breath here. And you expect me to be on and ready and able to do it. So I ask for the highest and best. And then I proceed to listen. And it can be instant.
That's nice. And that's what my mentor taught me as a form of defense. She taught me and my daughter, imagine a light in your hand, and then imagine it growing and growing and growing until it encompasses your body from head to toe. And that's sort of a shield that she had taught us. And funny thing, I had never heard of it before, but I didn't really come out of the paranormal closet until about 2012. So I'm still trying to catch up, and my mom was spiritually inclined, and she's the one that I had been learning from, and when she was gone, I didn't come across Kat until in my 30s. So
Right.
I was grateful to have her, and I inherited a bunch of her books, and she was teaching me about crystals and stones and things like that. And so I find that I'm still learning through her, like through her books that I inherited. But that was very interesting, and my daughter has also found comfort in that protective bubble, so to speak. That's a very interesting, way to do it, and I find that it does work.
Yeah. It's all about believing. I believe I'm going to be protected.
I believe. Okay, so we have about 6 more minutes before we go to break. So crystals, what are crystals that you would recommend for people if they are trying to meditate or protect or enlighten themselves?
I would suggest clear quartz crystals because they're pretty plentiful and it's a pretty good, easy shape to hold in one's hand. Most of the New Age or metaphysical shops or even the gem shops will have them. I also like to use rose quartz because of the connection to the heart, and a lot of people think of it as love. And the smoky quartz crystal, because to me, sometimes that will help redefine the energy. There's many books on crystals and their qualities, but I suggest people take whichever one they're drawn to. You can go into a store and hold them in your hand, and if you don't resonate with it, you're not going to feel it. A lot of people will feel warmth in their hand, maybe a tingle, a cool, clammy, but if you don't feel a thing, you're like, oh, must be not my rock. Or you can say, talk to me. And I usually say to them, if they need to come home to me, they say, I'm coming home with you. And then I know that's the right one because they're talking to me.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Did you mention a quartz or a stone for protection?
For protection, I'd probably use a black tourmaline.
That's my favorite.
And I would also suggest with that to clear it often because the stone's going to gather the energy. I like to put mine in water and leave it overnight and then pour the water out in the morning. And they seem to be clearer. They seem to be more sparkly. And I'm not sure how technically it shifts the energy, but it just does. Water is one of the 4 elements. And to me, that is a clearing, but it to me is not necessary. I can set my intention to clear it, but I tend to like water myself.
Do you do anything with the water, or do you just use regular water?
I just use regular water. I don't feel like there's a special water, but some people like to use different ones.
Do you know of different ones that different people use? Do they ever use like sea salt or maybe like water from a spring, or what are some examples of waters that people may use, as we're all different?
Some people will use distilled water. Some will use reverse osmosis water. Some will use a pH water. It really isn't, to me, significant, but to others they'll add the sea salt to it, so because to them, in their mind, that's essential in helping with the clearing. It's all a personal preference.
Do you find that sea salt does help for like clearing your house or cleansing yourself, like maybe taking a sea salt bath, if you feel like you do have an attachment?
I do feel like it helps. To me, the pores are open, the salt's helping pull the toxins, the energy, the things around me, and I feel better afterwards. But it's, again, that's a personal preference. To me, I don't necessarily have to take a bath to clear things, but if I feel like I want to, then that's one of the many ways.
And that could be a good way to also clear your mind and reset. And
could be a meditation, candles, or tub, sure.
That's great advice. Well, we have 1 minute coming up, and I just want to remind yourselves, Lauralee did write a book, and it's called How to Develop Your Psychic Senses, and you can get this on paperback as well as on Kindle. And you can also find her on your website. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what is the address for that?
It's psychicextraordinaire.com. And if you have trouble spelling that, you can just go to asklauralee.com and it will redirect you to Psychic Extraordinaire.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming out. And you guys, we're going to come back next hour with some more questions. We're going to be focusing on spirit guides, intuitive tarot, as well as photo reading and tea leaf reading. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and stick with us. We're going to go to break here in just a second. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens, or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today. Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Hey Space Travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on spacedoutradio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. at spacedoutradio.com. The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter the Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together we own the night.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. It's hour number 3 of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. Follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now back to the Rocky Mountains. Here's Tessa.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you again for hanging out with us. We have Lauralee on the line, and she's giving us much needed advice on so many things. Next, I wanted to talk about spirit guides. Lauralee, if someone's trying to get in touch with their spirit guide, how exactly would they do that?
It's very simple. It's along the lines of the beginning stages of learning your intuition, is to set out the mindset that you want to have them communicate, whether you hear them in your head or you have the lights flash on and on or objects fall off the shelves. I mean, that sounds a little scary, but sometimes that's how they get your attention. Not to harm you, but just to try to connect. Some people feel feelings of them, like there's a sense of a being in the room and they're just not sure who or what it is. So I would suggest set your thoughts for the highest and best, and then say, I want to talk to one of my spirit guides. Who is guiding me, aiding me, who's around me? I spoke in the last hour about my exercise guide and how he kept reminding me to get out of bed, go exercise, you'll feel better. And sometimes that's how they'll communicate, encouraging through words or to remind people of things. The best analogy I have with that is the movie Ghost with Whoopi Goldberg, where she was hearing the song in her head over and over and over. Sometimes we'll receive a thought, an impression, something continuously until we take action on it, because that guide is trying to aid us and assist us and enhance our life by sending thoughts towards us. But what I find is some people don't like that. They're like, I heard you, but they don't say it out loud or send a telepathic message. They just keep hearing it repeat over and over, and it drives them nuts. You just say, all right, I got the message. Send me something different or something new, because they don't know if you got the message or not. So they're trying to repeat it until they feel that the communication has reached the destination, which is your head.
That's very interesting. Do you believe that everyone has spirit guides?
I do. I believe we have quite a few of them. When I tune into my clients or friends or anyone, I find that there are 5 or 6 that are quite active and very prominent. A lot of times people say, is it my main guide or my master guide? I believe we do have one that sticks with us for the whole lifetime. But I also have found that there's some that fade in and out. My exercise guide no longer has to remind me, because I have learned and got a new discipline. So I'm well trained in exercising. And so that particular guide is going to go off and train someone new. And a lot of times I'll hear that the person has an education guide. They are encouraging them to learn and grow through education, whether it's book knowledge or street knowledge, whatever, learning something to continue to expand who they are as an individual. So there's not a particular thing that they need to teach you with, but they select what the top things are that you have indicated you want to learn and what's for your highest and best. So they'll hang around and try to encourage you and communicate. A lot of times they'll plant a thought in your head. That's the easiest way that I've seen it done. And you'll feel and sense that it's not yourself. It may be your tone of voice, but you'll just know it's from somewhere else. Or a lot of times it'll seem like a different age or even the opposite sex is popping in your head. And you're like, okay, I know that's not me because it feels like a man and I'm a woman. So that's very distinct.
Do you think our spirit guides are people that we've known from our past lives, or are they relatives that have passed and are watching over us, or perhaps angels? What is your take on that?
I believe that there are some relatives that pass over and they want to come back and be a guide for us. When I first learned to be intuitive, I was connected to the spiritualist church, and in that belief system, they believe that all of the communication is from someone that was once alive that passed over, so that they will start out the reading, oh, I'm seeing a woman and it's on your mother's side and her name is Mary, and they'll specifically tell the lineage of who it is that there's talking through them. And to me, I just ask for the highest and best. I don't need a specific relative or guide or master or guru. If I'm asking for the highest and best, it could be the highest there is. And I don't even know how high that gets to be, but I want to be open to it. So yes, the relatives can be. I feel the tendency of them being your guides are not as common, but there's a good share of them that are. So it's a variety. If there's a whole bunch that are passed on that you're related to and they have asked to be your guide, then you'll get a whole bunch of relatives. I believe there are angels all around us all the time. I think that the angels have their responsibilities. a little different than the spirit guides, but some people believe spirit guides are angels, that they're one and the same. To me, I don't really concern myself with which area they're coming from. If I want a message and it's from an angel, I don't worry about where it is. Some people say, I don't want to talk to the spirit guides. Those are lower beings. I want to talk to the angels. Send me direct link to them. So it's, again, what you feel that you believe in and what you're going to be open to hearing.
Yvonne is asking in the chat room, are some spiritual guides alien?
They can be. To me, anything that's not of the earth plane, being on planet Earth, to us is going to be alien. I work with an entity that's from the Pleiadians. And this particular female energy is a teacher, an educator. And she comes through and shares a lot of information. She has an Irish brogue. Oh, I'm told it's English, but it sounds Irish. And so to me, that would be considered extraterrestrial because it's not of the realm that we're familiar with.
We have another question here, or actually a comment, and it's from the Elite Robin. I have seizures when I'm about to have a seizure. Maybe she means signs when I'm about to have a seizure, and get warnings by seeing an entity. Would that also be a spirit guide, or is that something else?
I am not a doctor or a nurse or a naturopath, so without knowing more of the symptoms and what you're experiencing, I hesitate to refer to it as something in your house, but there are many ways we can feel and sense the energies. Some people don't like to use the word entity because to them it's not as comfortable receiving from an entity. They'd rather like to think of a spirit guide or a guru, maybe someone like Sai Baba or even Jesus that have passed on, wanting to receive from them, or some religious beliefs. They want to talk to God directly. So your energy can be affected, excuse me, and as soon as the energies that you're familiar with or want to communicate can intercept your physical body. Now, I've had people say they get the hair on the back of their neck can stand up. They might get a tingling sensation or a real strong sense that something's about to happen. But I hesitate to associate it with your health. So I hope I've answered that clearly for you.
Craig was asking, how do you see positive without dealing with our negative perceptions?
I would ask for the highest and best, and when I set out my intention to have just the positive, then I've asked the negative to take a back seat. Think of it as faded out or deflected or dissipated. I'm not sending it away, but I'm focusing more on the positive energy and bringing that to the forefront of my mind. So that's more of what I'm going to get because I'm lasering or bringing all my attention to positive.
Joseph is wondering, while meditating, I've sensed voices and ideas coming to me. How can I tell if the ideas or words are from my spirit guides or from himself?
You can send out, Joseph, and ask with your mind. You can telepathically or say it out loud. Are you one of my spirit guides? If you're not, go away. Or if you're not one of my highest and best, please stop communicating with me. And if the communication continues, then it is of your spirit guides.
Joseph is also asking, is there a banishing ritual that you recommend?
That's a really good question, Joseph. I personally don't like a lot of ritual and ceremony. That is something that I know the Wiccans, the pagans, and some of the other alternatives prefer. And I'm not saying you fall in that category, but to me, ritual and ceremony is spending extra time getting to what I want to get to. So I would just send a thought directly and go right into the intuition. If you feel comfortable smudging yourself or lighting a candle, saying a prayer, if that works for you, then I'd say more power to you. Everyone deals with it differently. Some want the ritual because then they're assured they're picking up only the good stuff because they've done certain steps to get themselves to connecting to their intuition or their angels or their higher self. Now, sometimes I'll say I want the highest and best for the individual I'm going to work with, or if there's anything else, it must leave now. And if there's any negative, it must leave. So you can say mantras, you can sing, you can dance. There's a variety of ways to step into connecting, but that's going to be a personal preference for you.
Okay, and speaking of intuition, you were talking about intuitive tarot. What exactly is intuitive tarot and how does that work?
To me, the tarot cards are images and pictures like a photograph. When you look at a photograph, you usually think about, oh, is my hair straight or is it untidy? Oh, what happened here? My aunt dropped the teacup and it stained the carpet. It's a reminder of something that happened. And some intuitive people like to use them as triggers, as like looking at a photo album and remembering things, or having that help them connect to where the information is. So it's not an essential thing to use tarot cards to pick up information, but a lot of first-time or beginners prefer it because they can physically see something in front of them. The reason I call it intuitive tarot, or some people call it tarot, is that I don't use the little booklet that comes with it. When I teach the class, I show them the booklet. We talk a minute or two about how that's related to the cards, and then I throw it over my shoulder and say, forget everything that's in the booklet. We're not going to use it, because I've gotten books that say an airplane means danger. And I'm thinking, no, if there's an airplane on the card, it doesn't mean it's danger. It means that's what somebody else decided because there were statistics or someone gathered enough information that this particular symbol was reminded of these particular thoughts, ideas, concepts. So to me, it's filtering the reading by using a booklet. It may help to have an idea how to use the cards, but then to stop using the booklet, because to me, if you're going to memorize what each card is, it may help your intuition and it may not. It may give you a filter that you don't want there because you've programmed in that when you see the swords, it's a negative, or when you see the pentacles, it means intelligence. You've put tags on things that don't necessarily need to be there. So my recommendation when reading tarot cards or even playing cards is to not think about it, not use your logic, just use it first thing that comes to your head. If you see a particular color in the card, maybe the yellow of the sun seems really bright, and that's what your eyes are drawn to, then that's a reminder. And you say, okay, a bright sun to me feels happy. So you can talk to the person about some happiness. But if you feel like there's a card that seems dark, there's one called the Tower where people seem to be falling off this building. You might say, well, your life is starting to fall apart. If that's what it feels like, great. But if it feels like a transformation and things are changing, and things you no longer need are falling away, then it's a positive card. It's all how you receive the impressions of what that card reminds you of. And that's how I like to read them. some people don't like turning them upside down. I find I turn them upside right because most people are like, what is that? And they turn it upside right to look at it. So to me, it's extra effort and energy, and they're distracted by it being upside down. There are people that like to do spreads where there's books on how to lay out the cards. I don't use those because to me, that's dictating what you want the card to represent. You're sending out an intention that the first 3 cards are past, present, and future. What if the person doesn't want to know those things? What if they have specific questions that are not associated with those 3 topics? Then I'm giving them information that's not of interest, or it distracts them from what they had intended to find out from me. So to me, it's more just reading them whatever surfaces immediately.
Do you find that when a card is upside down, it means the opposite of what you generally determine it, or does it really not matter?
To me, it doesn't matter, but if you're using the cards and you've set your intention that it's upside down and it means the opposite, then it means the opposite, because it's how you have your own personal way of reading. It may not be the same as I read. I teach people what works for me, and then I tell them, you can forget everything I've just taught you, do what works best for you, and just use the cards how they feel right. I had a friend that took the cards, would shuffle them, and then put them in 3 piles, and then say, pick a pile, and the person would point to it, and she would remove that part of the deck and then do the reading with the last 2 piles. Well, that bothered me, that I didn't get the whole deck of cards. It threw me off. I don't know why she did it, but that was her way of reading. And I thought, that doesn't feel right to me. So the upside down is usually people feel comfortable because then they say, oh, it's the opposite. I don't read them that way, but that's not right or wrong. It's just a personal preference.
Greg is asking in the chat room, he says, hi, Lauralee. I find it difficult to stay focused. I'll do the meditation plus other things for a week or 2. Then I get sidetracked for a bit. Then he ends up back at the start. Any tips on staying on track?
Greg, that's a great question. I've heard that many times. Trying to focus is something we need to train ourselves to do. It's not that you have a problem, it's that you're learning how to reprogram what you've done in the past. And that's what I said earlier about it's like 2 tire tracks in a field that's well worn, and there's a pathway that our brain automatically takes. And the more you work on programming yourself to do it differently, the more you have a new neurological pathway to the brain. You're learning how to have a new habit. And that's why they say it takes approximately 21 days to create a habit, because you're overlaying the old imprints and creating a new one. So it takes discipline. But in your case, I would say to jot down some of the things that are old patterns and get things out of your head so that you're acknowledging them and letting them dissipate and go away, because you've at least said, I heard the words and moved it out. Think of it like a conveyor belt. When things are moving by, you want to acknowledge them so they don't tug and pull and throw you off balance, because you're visibly seeing them, and some things scream out and want your attention. So you want to try to remove as many of the distractions as possible. Some of the things I've found, Greg, is that with today's technology, we have such a habit of connecting to our phones because they're smartphones. They're actually a computer, but yet we've got so programmed to check it, to look at it, to answer texts immediately. So shutting it off entirely is the best thing I would suggest. If there are other noises around, even putting earplugs in to tone out the sounds can be helpful, but mostly it's about creating new habits. I hope that's cleared up what you were asking.
Okay, well, moving on to our next topic, photo reading. And that's a very interesting topic to me. But how exactly does photo reading work?
I think you've heard, Tessa, the phrase, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Uh-huh.
Well, I believe that it is worth that many words, because to me, it's a lot like the tarot cards, that it reminds me of something. If I'm looking at a photograph that someone is showing me, whether it's on their smartphone or they physically have the photograph printed, I can pick up the impressions about that person at the time of the photograph that was taken, or if their future is going to be bright or something happened in the past. Usually a person will say a relationship question. Is this person going to marry me? Or is it over? Or where's it going? And I can look ahead with the possibilities that could happen based on that person's vibration. But the photograph, it's almost like that phrase, the eyes are the window to the soul. Maybe their eyes aren't as prominent or clear in the picture, but there's still a vibrational frequency that is emanating out, even if the picture is a tiny picture. It's your ability to set your intention to use that photograph to have an aid and assistance to connecting to their record in the library. It's an invisible library, but that's what I think of it the most. It's a data collection, anything from the beginning of time up to today and possibilities for the future. And that photograph is like a liaison or an ambassador. It's going to help me or some other intuitive, even yourself, looking at the photograph to get a feel for that person. My suggestion is to look at a magazine and look at the person, not necessarily their body language or how they're dressed, but to get a feel for, are they happy? Even if they're smiling, you can pick up impressions about them. I've also used some of the political flyers that they leave on my door to show people that the people in those pictures, you can read about them without having to read all their propaganda of how they're trying to encourage us to vote for them, because you can get right past that and get a feel for that person, because all of that vibration is available to tune into. You don't really need the photograph, but it's kind of a helper, like a kickstart, so you can look at them and say, oh, this is who I want to tune into. People have brought me pictures of their family and said, I want to know about my sister. And there'll be the other people in the picture, but that doesn't necessarily need to be there in order for me to pick up just the sister.
Have you been able to convey important messages or help to solve anything by doing a photo reading?
I have been able to solve things through photographs. There was one woman that came to me. She was very concerned. Her son had passed away, and she brought me this photograph. She really needed to have closure on whether he was murdered or he committed suicide, because they said it was suicide, and she didn't believe the authorities. Whatever investigation, she just didn't feel right about it. And she thought, well, it's a possibility, but I know my son and I don't feel like that's what happened. Can you just put it to rest? And I didn't feel like it was a suicide, but I couldn't prove it to her. I could just help her understand that something that she felt was accurate, that it wasn't just a logical explanation.
That's amazing. Sandra was saying in the chat room that she has found, out of all the readings she's received through tarot or psychics, that her most accurate was a tea leaf reading. Have you had experience with that? And how exactly do you describe tea leaf reading to someone? How could they do that?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's actually a chapter in my book. I use it in some of my teachings to show people that they can use any object, any tool to do an intuitive reading. And in the case of the tea leaf readings, I find that women relate to them better. I won't say that men don't, but most men don't like to use them for reading. It's an ancient tool that's been around for many years, and to me, it depends on the intuitive. I'm really glad that you're getting a great reading with the tea leaf reading, and that is the tool that seems to resonate the best for you. But I've also found in teaching people that they get too distracted with the objects in the leaves. To me, tea leaf reading, if you use just like a green tea or a black peacoat, with no other pieces in there, it's just the residual grains that show up on the tray or the teacup saucer. And it's all intuitive. It is not necessarily the tea leaves that's giving the reading. It's the person and how open they are in their abilities to receive. But I've also used potpourri to do the tea leaf readings because to me it's more colorful. It's not as messy. And people can see a visual. Like one lady came to me and she said, I'm looking for a man. Why can't I find him? And there was a bay leaf over an acorn. And I looked at that and immediately felt like she needs to uncover more things and look further and deeper for the man, that she was not seeing something that was in front of her because it was covered up. So it's in a visual aid. And for some people, it just helps trigger them to the things they need to see and interpret to share with the person they're reading. So I would say some people relate to it really well and others don't. So I'm really glad that works for you.
So with psychometry, do you find that it's safe? Is there any harmful side effects or anything to it? If you're explaining psychometry to someone, what exactly is psychometry?
Psychometry is the art of holding an object. It could be a ring, a watch, it could be a piece of jewelry, it could be a piece of clothing. I've heard people say they've brought eyeglasses to a psychic. Anything that a person has held or used, it doesn't have to be used a lot, but some psychics feel like if it's not an object that the person has touched often, then they don't feel like they can pick up as much. It goes back to what I said earlier about intention. If we say, I want to use this object to connect to a person, then it's not necessarily the vibration the object's giving off, but it is your intention of using the object as a liaison. Some people feel the vibrations. I had a friend I used to work with, David, who was the best psychometry person I've ever known. He took my wedding ring, held it in his hand, and proceeded to tell me about the miners that mined the diamond and what happened to them and how many times it traded hands before the jeweler produced it and put it into my ring. And I said, David, let's focus on me, not the beginning of my ring, which he got a little carried away, but he was very good because he could describe it in great detail all the way back to the origin of that object. So to me, when I first started and I held a girl's ring and told her that I saw the head of a dog barking, it more was me having an object to link my intuition to that particular person. And it helped me to see that I could receive just her information and not the other people in the room.
It's pretty awesome. So is psychometry, so that's not involved with past lives. That's holding an object and reading it and getting a reading from the energy that has been put onto it. With past lives, do you find that there's any negative reaction to getting a past life regression?
A past life regression to me is like looking at a photo album and going backwards in time and reviewing information that has been captured. The way I work with past lives is I can do a regression, but I prefer to just look into the person's energy field and tell them the pieces of that past life that are most significant that relate to today. I had a woman that said she didn't like traveling. She was a homebody. She didn't want to go far from the house. She would go grocery shopping, but she just had this fear of going too far. And I don't do a lot of past life readings because I usually am able to solve everything with the current day. But in this case, the woman had gotten lost in the desert. She had a camel, and there was a dust storm, and she had to cut open the camel and stay inside the camel for the night and eat some of the camel for food. And she survived, but it was so traumatic that she never wanted to have that happen again. And she brought some of those memories forward into this lifetime that weren't resolved. So I wouldn't say it was negative, but it was traumatic, but it was memories that she still had that hadn't been healed. So that helped her feel more comfortable about her reasons for not leaving the house. And she actually started to travel more because she understood why she didn't want to travel, but she just didn't have a reference this lifetime why it bothered her.
Have you found or witnessed anyone that has had an adverse or negative reaction to doing a past life regression?
I'd have to say I only had one case that even came close to labeling it as negative, but it wasn't really negative. It was more a reaction to seeing different things in the past life. I took a gentleman back to a time where he said he was having trouble finding his friends and relating to them. He was really concerned and he wanted to know why. So I took him back in through the mist, and he said he'd never passed through the mist. And I said, well, you should be through it by now, because that's part of the procedure that I stepped them back into a regression. And I finally had to say to him, okay, go to the end of the time when the mist is there. And he said, oh, I'm in war times. The mist was a chemical warfare. So he was in a different mist than the one I brought him through to get to the alternate lifetime. And he began to hold his stomach and lean over and say, oh, I feel like I'm going to be sick. And his girlfriend was with him, and she was scared, and I felt fine. I didn't feel like he was going to throw up, but I grabbed the trash basket and held it next to him just in case. And it was because of the chemical fumes, he was reacting to it. His body was saying, oh, wow, I remember this. But he never really threw up. So to me, it can be alarming if a person that's regressing them isn't comfortable or knowing how to regress someone when something gets stirred up and brought to the surface, because it's all about suggestibility to the mind. So I just told him to move through the mist, and then he was fine. He sat right up and he was comfortable. And when we brought him back, he said he was fine. He didn't feel sick at all, just during that moment that he went through the mist where the chemicals were.
So, do the regression exercises always evoke memories of past life? And is that the only way for one to have such memories?
I have not had anybody that I've regressed tell me they couldn't see anything. And I think there were one or two people that at first couldn't see anything, but then I said, okay, look down at your body, tell me what race or what color you are, what you're wearing, how tall, how small, are you male, female, are you an animal? Look at all of the pieces of what's going on. Look in the environment. Is it day? Is it night? Is it in the mountains? Is it by the sea? Is it desert? I'll throw out certain ideas so that they can at least begin to grasp what they're looking for. And then a lot of times they'll go, oh, there's a road. I said, go down the road. Tell me what's down there. Or they'll say, oh, I see a clock. I said, what time is it? And they'll tell me. I said, well, what century? What's the year? And they'll be able to tell me clearly what the environment is. And they'll come back and say, that's fascinating because I don't know much about that history, but I know I was with Queen Elizabeth's era. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Because it's not about what their memory is, not what they've studied in history. It's what their impressions are, what they visibly can see. Just think of it as lucid dreaming or even recalling a dream. It feels like that because it's very vivid, but yet they feel as though they took on the persona or even some of the wounds or feelings of the trauma of that time. One of my great friends said he was a plantation owner in the Civil War, and he was mean to his slaves, but then he realized that he needed to not do that anymore, and he became a good plantation owner. But some of his people he mistreated didn't trust him, and they killed him. So he understood that his choices led to his demise, but he wasn't upset about it. He just was viewing it like he was watching a film happening. So it didn't make him feel bad or guilty or that he made all these mistakes. He just understood and learned from it. So no, you don't need to be regressed. When I do it, it's like scanning someone. I say, okay, give me the highest and best for this person, but show me a past life. Show me what's going on. One lady was concerned about making the fires go out when someone was putting out a cigarette in the ashtray. She would take the butt and really push it down until she knew it was totally out. Then she'd dump the ashtray and put water and wipe it out. And she said, I'm obsessed. I always do this. I don't understand why. And when I looked in her past life, she had her relatives, her sister, her mother, her father, her brother, they perished in a fire, and she was on the site, and she tried to go in to save them, and she couldn't. Otherwise, she would have died. And so she had to watch them die, and it bothered her so much that she vowed from then on she would be so careful around any kind of fire. And then once she understood that, she said, oh my God, I get it. So to me, in each person's vibrational frequency, all you have to do is set your intention to go to a past life, and you can begin to see images, pictures, words, feelings about someone's previous incarnations, so that it's not a difficult thing to review them. If you're doing regressions, it takes a lot of time to get the person to settle down, maybe getting some soft music. And like I said in the earlier hour, it takes 23.5 minutes to redirect your attention from what you were doing or thinking to clear your mind or redirect it to another thought. So it does take some time to settle into a place where you're in the subconscious, the more suggestible state. And that's why they record it most of the sessions, so you can hear it back over and over again to get those suggestibility things, to reroute the things you want to change. And so it's good to go through a regression at least once to see what it's like, but it's not really necessary. Some people feel like they never got to the regression because their suggestibility level is less. They don't trust as much, but they still experience a little subtlety. And others feel like nothing happened when they actually did get there. So it's, some people do well with it and others don't.
So speaking of dreams, do you believe that people can get past life memories during their dreams?
I do believe that they can. The biggest thing that I suggest to people is to set their intention before they go to bed, what they want to know. They don't have to write it on a piece of paper and have it in writing, but that they say, okay, I want to know a past life, any one of them. Or they could say, I want to know a past life when I did something good because I need to build my self-esteem. Or I want to know a time that I got killed and what I learned from it. It doesn't matter what you're setting the intention for. but that you're putting it out there, and then your subconscious mind can grasp that and have that scenario, either a feeling of reliving it or just a glimpse of it, that you're watching it happen as if you were an observer, or you're being told from someone else in the dream, here's what I saw happen to you. There's a variety of ways that people can receive it, but it's more setting your intention and then falling asleep and having that unfold.
So you were speaking about interpreting dreams earlier. How would one go about interpreting their dreams?
The biggest thing I say to people is, how did you feel while you were in the dream? The key word is feel, because it's not necessarily what logically happened, but how you're experiencing it. And when you wake up, you can say, oh, I feel fine, I feel happy. I say, but how did you feel when you were in the dream? You say, I was horrified. That's the feeling that you can start with. I'll give you an example. Many times when I was younger, I would have dreams about that I couldn't find my car. I parked it somewhere. I know it was in front of that brick building on a street with many maple trees, and I know exactly where I parked it, but when I came out of the building, it was gone. And then I calmly would say, oh, darn it. And then I'd call the police and try to find out where my car was. And I never had a fear about anyone stealing my car when I was awake. So I was trying to figure out, why was my car disappearing? And what I realized in the dream state was that I wasn't in charge of driving my life. It was my vehicle that took me through life, not my physical vehicle that I drove, but the different things I was doing. And then when I woke up, I would observe, am I giving too much and other people are taking too much from me? I need to say no more. Or am I doing too much? I'm trying to multitask and I don't have time for everything I want to have time for. There were many things I had to think about why I didn't feel like I was in control of my life. And I could quickly correct that. And then the dreams of my car disappearing went away because I solved it. I didn't need to be reminded constantly that my car was gone.
When I was younger, I used to have a reoccurring dream, and it would start off me on what I just thought was a balancing beam, and I'm walking along it as a kid, balancing and feeling happy or great, and then all of a sudden a gust of wind blew and I fell onto the beam, which turned out to be an iron beam for building like skyscrapers and stuff. And as I look down, I can see clouds below me, and then the clouds start to part, and I can see tops of very tall buildings and little tiny people and little tiny cars, and then a big gust comes along again and knocks me off of the beam, and I fall and fall and fall until right before I hit the crack of the sidewalk. And this was a reoccurring dream for years. Do you think this is an example of perhaps what was going on in my life at that moment, or could it possibly be a past life memory?
I would suggest a recurring dream is a symbol, a sign of something for you to solve, to do something different than what you're doing, because the dream's trying to help your psyche solve something in your wake state that you haven't got closure on. I'll give you an example. I had a roommate in college, Beverly, and she would dream about this car coming down a hill, and right before it hit her, she would always wake up, and she didn't know what to do. And in the dream, she finally said to herself, what if I jump behind the tree right of the side of the road where the car's coming down? And when she did, the car dream stopped. It wasn't reoccurring anymore. She took an action. She changed what she was doing. So even if you change it in the dream, it can get rid of the recurring dream. Or if you wake up and make a change in your waking state, then the recurring dream can change. In your case, I'm feeling that it's more about the balance beam, because a beam is something solid, but yet you were thrown off balance. And so thinking about in your life during that time, how did you feel about falling on the beam or falling in general? As a balance beam is pretty thin piece of wood. I mean, it's thick enough to stand on, but it's not like a table. It's something you have to spend focus and attention in standing on it, or if you're doing a routine, making sure that you've got your balance. And so it's a sense that the wind being something you don't have control over, because the wind is a natural element of nature, but yet it's strong enough to throw you off balance. So the wind could be other facets or people or elements that you're not aware of how to control them that would toss and turn you. And once you figured out how to not have that affect your life, then the dream could stop happening.
Yeah, as I thought about it as an adult, I felt like perhaps it was because I had lost my mom to a drunk driver, and my life felt quite unstable for quite a while, and so I attributed it to that, and perhaps moving into my aunt and uncle's house, which my aunt is now my mom. She adopted me a couple weeks ago, but just being thank you, just being in a positive and loving household and feeling that stability, I think may have been connected to why I didn't have that dream anymore. Does that make sense to you?
That makes a lot of sense, because the drunk driver is like the wind. You had no control over that, and it came and threw you off balance, because balance was having a home, having a mother, and then when that was gone, it tossed you off the beam and you fell. But the crescending downward is an undetermined way that you're going to land, because you don't know the future. You don't have knowledge or a peek into the future or the premonition of where you're going to end up. So right before you hit the pavement, your system said, oh, I don't want to imagine myself splatting on the pavement. Then I'll just stop it right there, and it'll be an unknown. And then when it cleared up, in this case, moving in with the grandparents, it became clearer, and there was no need to feel out of balance or out of control any longer, because you had the stability. You were standing taller on the beam.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I find comfort that it wasn't a past life memory. And it's funny, as I get older, I gain more fears, and I do have a fear of heights as I get older. My friends are going skydiving, and I'm like, there's no way I'm going skydiving unless, one, the plane is going down, and two, someone kicks my butt out the door. Otherwise, you guys can have it. But I've heard it's a very exhilarating experience, but, like I said, they can have it.
When you're ready, you'll do it, but you may never be. It's up to you to look at the dream and say, how did I feel while I was in the dream? And I'd have to use the words out of control, that you didn't feel like you had control of the situation. And so you had to free fall. And free fall is not a fun thing. One of our natural instincts is of falling in loud noises, because it's a survival instinct to try to correct that and find a way to get grounded and get the loud noises to go away. It's a scary thing. Once we desensitize or detach from it and become wiser and more sure of ourselves, it's very scary. It is a fear, and it will continue to be a fear until it's conquered.
We have a question from Joseph in the chat room, and he's asking or telling us, I have something personal to ask. I was on a 5-day solo camping trip recently, and on the last day I met a young couple who came into my camp and asked me a lot of weird questions. Should I be concerned about them? Do you have any insight about this experience?
I do have some insight on that, Joseph. I feel like the couple was very curious I'm not sure what kind of weird questions, but I don't need to know because I'll use my intuition to answer that. I do feel like they were an odd couple, so it is sense for alarm, but it's something in clinical terms we call a healthy level of caution. I wouldn't say that they were asking things to stalk you or to make your life uncomfortable or use that data against you. I feel like they were very curious about life, but it was outside the box, so it was something that they didn't say the questions in a way that you could feel comfortable about them. So I would say your sense of alarm was a natural instinct to protect yourself and shield yourself, and that was a healthy way to respond to it. You could have a choice to respond or just say, I'm not comfortable with this, go away. But it feels like it's natural for you to talk to people, but not those kinds of questions. So I don't feel like it was a secret society or the government. It just feels like people that just were more experienced in life and want to know more things outside the box that they normally would have asked. Okay, let's take a look, Kat. Channeling 3 times a year. I'm picking up the name Sanat Kimura. Now, I'm not quite sure how to spell that. I think Sanat is S-N-A-T and Kimura is K-U-M-A-R-I. You could do a search on the internet. It'll probably give you some possibilities of spellings, but as far as I know, it's an ascended being, someone that's very ancient, but that's the first thing that comes to mind for me.
Lauralee, if you have any more for Kat, can we get back to that when we come back from this break?
Sure.
All right, you guys, we're going to come back from break, and we're going to be doing some live readings, so don't go anywhere.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia, brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
We're lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here comes the second hour of Spaced Out Sunday with host Tessa Nicole Thomas. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. And you can follow Tessa on Twitter at Tessa TNT. Now, back to the show.
Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for hanging in there. We're in our third hour, and that means free psychic readings. So, if you'd like to call in, the Skype number for tonight is 970-335-9596. Again, that's 970-335-9596. And as usual, you guys can type your questions in the Spreaker room as well. Welcome back, Lauralee. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thanks, Tessa. It's great to be here. I'm enjoying this, and I really enjoy talking about the psychic world and all this natural phenomenon that sometimes can be pretty scary. As a follow-up to Kat, she was asking about who she channels 3 times a year. I did do a quick lookup, and Sanat Kumara is Kumara and is an ascended master. So some pretty high being there coming through for you, Kat.
She was also asking who or what is actively involved with myself starting the very beginning, June 1st of this year. What is on top, in quotations, of my situation?
Can you read the question again? I missed part of that. I'm sorry.
Who or what is actively... Oh, sorry. Whoever that was, please call back again in just a minute. Who or what is actively involved with myself starting the very beginning, June 1st of this year? What is on top, and that's in quotations, on top of my situation?
Okay, I'm not really clear exactly what you're asking, but I'll answer what I understand that you're asking. Who or what at the June 1st? It feels like an angelic presence, and it feels like it was something that you asked for, but that you weren't aware that you had invoked it. And as for what's on top of the situation, it feels like you're going through a difficult time, but it's more a transformation time. And it feels like a caterpillar breaking out of it. That's what it feels like as a summation. So if you want to retype your question with a few different words, I think I answered it, but maybe it's not clear for you. Oh, I usually say what's on top, meaning just randomly what's on top. So that would be, you had said the word on the situation. So I was trying to relate the what's on top with something specific that's happening. So if I had to say what's on top with Kat, you're busting out of the old you and becoming this new person that's more powerful, stronger, more solid. Anything you've had for challenges in the past, it seems like you may have little tiny challenges, but it seems like the bulk of what you've gone through, it seems like the cloud has parted and life is loosening up and becoming much more, I want to say the word profitable, because it feels like it's financially better, but also there's a calm, a peacefulness, like even a sense of trusting and saying, yeah, I don't have to worry about life. This is an opening that I've been waiting for, but I'm surprised because I didn't know I was tripping into it. So it's not so much that you're in the dark, but it's a different phase of your life that feels like you're busting out. So I'm excited for you because it feels really good. Like whatever was holding you back before, it feels like you're going to have a much better second half of your life from now on.
Yeah, she said since June 1st, my life has been destroyed and rebuilt in 7 days. And she also says, that's exactly how I feel. And she says, I love her.
Aw, thank you, dear.
Okay, we have a call from a 212 number. Who are we speaking with?
Am I muted? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hello? Oh, cool. Hi. This is Daryl. How's everybody doing?
Good, Daryl. How are you?
I have two questions. Maybe I have a paranormal thing and then I have a dream thing. I don't know what. I'll do the simple one first. I've been seeing things like darting around, like either bugs or mice or snakes, like just really fast in the peripheral vision. And I know they're not like physical, but I wonder if there's something like behind that. Like, what's going on? Like,
Okay, I can answer that right away. You don't have to describe it anymore. It's part of your awareness of what we call orgone energy. That's ORGONE. And it darts around. I like to think of them as either quinoa or little sperms because they've got an end on them and then a tail. And it sometimes moves faster, sometimes slower. And the reason you're seeing it out of the corner of your eye is because it's not something that's as easy to see directly head on. Usually if you look at the sky or even a primary colored wall or a curtain and try not to focus your eyes, but just let your eyes relax, the more bright the sun is and it's not cloudy, the faster they'll move around, and there'll be hundreds of them. And when it's a cloudy day, there'll be almost as many, but they'll be much slower. They'll still be darting around, but it's like a hummingbird. Zip, 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 zip. And they're moving tremendously fast. So I congratulate you. Pat yourself on the back. You're actually seeing energy, and your physical eyes are capable of seeing it.
Wow. Okay, they're not dangerous or anything, right?
No, it's not like a floater on your eye. It's actually energy. So if you look at the word orgone, ORGONE, and see what the definition is, you're actually seeing what energy looks like.
Wow. Okay, that's great. Can I ask my dream question?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I have a recurring dream about a friend of mine that passed away, and many years ago. He was only 25. He died of AIDS. And I always dream he's alive. He's still in his apartment on Christopher Street, but he's always doing something like sneaky and dangerous. And last night, I think he murdered his neighbor. But I was so elated that he was alive, and I didn't want to cover up for him, and I felt like I had to. But I didn't approve of anything he does. He was kind of a kleptomaniac, so I kind of wasn't friends with him at his time he died. Right. Maybe I have guilt over that, but I had he robbed me, robbed everybody we knew. So I couldn't really have him as. It's kind of hard to have a friend that's a kleptomaniac. Right. I draw kind of a line there. But before he had robbed me, we were best friends. And he really, tried to reconnect with me, but I just wasn't willing to. So I don't know why I have dreams about him constantly, that he's alive. I don't know.
Okay, I can address that, Daryl. The first thing you've got to think about in the dream is, how do you feel? And at one point, it was a best friend. It was a connection. It was very strong, and it felt comfortable. And the fact that you're feeling like he's still alive is the consciousness is alive, that the body's gone and that he still exists. So you being so linked and connected to him, even in death, you're still able to feel the presence. So sometimes it's stronger than others. And him being back in his apartment and murdering someone, it's more your fear of him being a menace. And something that's not comfortable to you and something that you don't have control over, that you're afraid that others will be harmed. So it's more just looking at your psyche, and when you're associated to this friend, I'll call him a friend even though there was some discomfort there, it's just the sense that it's what is the lesson there when you woke up and said, wow, I got to stay away from him, or I got to just not do this. You've got to look at how it applies to something you're trying to solve in your life, because sometimes we think of someone we know really well, and it's not necessarily the person that passed on, but what they represent. And you have a fear of someone taking something from you. And when he took something without permission, it confirms your fear that people can take things even if they're your friends. So I'd look at everyday life of what's happening to you that you don't feel as safe or grounded or comfortable with. Having something taken away is a level of not trusting 100%. That life is going to dish out to us stuff that we don't know when it's going to show up. I mean, we can look at stuff logically and calculate what some stuff is going to unfold, but there's a point where there's some things that we don't know until the minute it shows up.
Well, I've been robbed by people I've trusted that I've just met, like at church, for example. Like, I've been robbed like 3 times in the last 2 years, I'd say, by people I thought, well, people I didn't know that well, but I give everybody the benefit of the doubt, you know, that they're going to be honest. I don't assume they're going to steal, but it keeps on happening to me, so I don't know.
What I would suggest, Daryl, is that your caregiver gene or your rescue gene is very active. I want you to write a letter to the sperm bank and return it. Return that gene, just a fictitious letter. You don't actually have to mail it, but say to yourself, how can I stop giving too much? Because you have a fear of things being taken, but yet you still have a big heart. So you've got to find a new habit, a new way of approaching it, that it's not your responsibility to rescue people. There's a lot of people that have lessons in life that they've got some hard luck, but it's not necessarily your job to make sure that they're okay. And
right.
Different way of approaching things that makes it so you're not vulnerable, because it's happening too often. 3 is quite a few, but it's not like it's not like a black cloud or a negative thing chasing you. You just have to change how you live your life, and then that won't happen as much, if at all.
Okay, that's great. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Good luck with that.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Yeah, you too.
You too, Daryl.
Bye.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much. Bye now.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, so we had a couple calls from a few people, but in the meantime, while we're waiting for those calls to come back in, I had a question from Hannah, and she says, who am I, and who is my spirit guide?
I'm not quite sure when you mean who am I. I can tell you what your soul decided to be this lifetime, if that's what you were asking. So let's take a look at Hannah. I'm seeing you as a powerful being that came to bring some peace on the planet. You decided that you got tired of being in spirit form. You were really good at helping people, but yet you said, I want to come here and make a difference. I'm done just playing around and learning from the sidelines. I want to actively, physically go down and see what I can do. So,
hello?
Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Are you there, Lauralee?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
I can hear you. Sorry.
Okay.
We lost
Aloha
Lauralee.
nu. Okay. Aloha nui loa, Tessa. This is Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne. Can you hold on just 1 second, please?
Sure, hon.
Trying to find Lauralee. Oh, there we are.
As for a spirit guide that's around you, I want to call the spirit guide's name Marcana. Now, I don't know how to spell that because it's just the way the tone of voice and the description came across. But I feel like Marcana is a healing guide, that you have a natural healer inside of you that you're not fully activated in. That I'm seeing a start of that with acupuncture, acupressure, like reflexology with the feet. And you can also do what I would call trigger point therapy, where you can do a search on that. It's more just doing pressure with the fingers rather than needles, and helping people to relieve things and clear up stuff in their life that's nonverbal. You don't have to counsel them or tell them intuitively, but you're doing it more with your hands. So I hope that's answered the question you're looking for. If not, please send another note with clarification.
All right, thank you so much for that. I kind of had an issue with Skype for a second, and we lost you, but I think we got the most important of what you were saying. Let me see if I can add Yvonne to this call. Yvonne, if you're listening, can you both hear me?
I can hear you. They
Yvonne,
were there
are you
for a
there?
minute. I think we lost them.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. All right. I think she's back.
Okay.
Yvonne?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome back. Sorry we lost you.
I've been affecting a lot of electronic functionings lately.
That's interesting. Okay, go ahead and ask Lauralee your question.
Okay, Lauralee, I have never met my paternal great-grandmother, but yet she has had such an impact on my spiritual journey. Is there a possibility that you could connect with her, and if she has anything in particular she would like to communicate to me?
Sure, Yvonne, I'd love to do that for you. So, your great-grandma, let me see.
On the paternal side of the family.
Right. Mm-hmm. She, first of all, is saying, I want you to know that you're loved. That is just a real basic sentence. It feels like she's actually still emitting messages to you constantly, even though...
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm seeing an open channel to you on a regular basis, that there is a similar resonance and frequency between the two of you. I feel like you were with her another lifetime where you were the mother and she was the child. And so your group reincarnated and you reversed roles or did something different.
Oh.
I feel like she definitely had a link to you before this.
Wow.
She's saying not to take things so seriously. In other words, a healthy level of detachment so that you don't look at things and have them throw you so far off balance. Because I don't feel like you're a serious type person, but it's like you're putting too much charge and value into things.
Okay. Yeah, because there's been a real shift in my spiritual journey. I'm having to distinguish between what is illusion and what is the truth.
Okay. We can go back to what I said earlier, is you ask for the highest and best, and if what you're hearing isn't of the highest, then it can't repeat and come back. So if you say, whoever I was just listening to, if you're of my goodness, then you can continue talking. Otherwise, go away.
Right. Yeah, because she is the one who was she is the Filipino shaman in our family heritage.
Right.
And I've been going through a journey of remembering.
She actually
that
is
heritage.
Very much encouraging you to get that journey rolling. The word she's saying is kicking your butt. She's like, come on, Yvonne, get it going.
What does she mean by get it going, though? Because I have, I was mentoring with a Kumu, a Hawaiian healer type, but he had passed away. So I've been kind of winging it on my own. So I don't know whether she is saying for me to begin my mission of offering, such as like my Hawaiian healing arts,
I would
in the
say,
guidance of people.
I would say being more active with it, because it doesn't feel like it's dormant, but it's almost like her encouragement is to speed it up and do more with it. So it's not, there's no set time frame, but it feels like an encouragement that you're on the right track, but she wants you to just go full blown with it if you can.
Okay. Well, tell her, please send a specialist to fix my car. That's the thing that's holding me back.
Absolutely. She said she's going to see what she can do about talking to the spirits that are the, what do they call those? The electronic stavas.
Right. Because I don't know if it's me doing it or is it the car's, computer system. I mean, I've gone through diagnostic testing, and when I get there, then the symptoms disappear. I've been dealing with it for over a month.
A little bit of it's you, but remember it's a computer. It's an electronic piece of equipment.
Right.
So any set thing could affect it.
Right.
Sometimes it takes a mechanic or whoever's checking it many times until they pinpoint exactly what's going on. I would document as much of it as you can, and say what hour, what time, what were you doing. If you were meditating and then it didn't work, I would suggest grounding yourself.
I have to. I found I had to kick it up in regards to walking barefoot outside a lot. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I found that when I kicked it up, then the car started working again. And then recently, the other day, I started seeing the problem creeping back up. And so that's why I'm kind of knocking myself out in terms of what else do I need to do?
Right. I would say some breathing exercises, move your chi, your prana, your life force, get that flowing. I would even maybe take a Tai Chi or a Qigong class, something where you make your physical body hip distance apart with your legs and just really feel the energy grounding and going deep into the ground. It's not essential. It's not that is the only way, but it just feels like that works best for you for now until you get a better exercise to deal with it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you're
Yvonne.
welcome. Bye-bye.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Tessa. I will. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, so we had a couple other people trying to call in, but we just can't get everybody in the room at the same time. So I'm glad we got her back. We lost her for a minute. And we actually did lose you for a minute as well when you were doing Hannah's reading, but we got you back as well. But I think she got the most important part when you were talking about her guide there. So, Kevin, Chris, if you guys want to try calling back in, that'd be great. And I'm looking to see if we have any more questions here from anyone in the chat room. And you guys, if you'd like to call in on Skype, the number is 970-335-9596. That was really great advice that you gave Yvonne. I know she's been trying to contact her, I think she said her great-grandmother for quite some time. So that's great. You were able to communicate for her and connect them.
Oh, it's very strong, like a super highway. Like, I don't feel that strong a lot of the time with relatives, but she's very connected to Yvonne. There's a link that didn't get severed. It's, even if she never met her, it's just very much alive. Not like physically alive, but there's energy flowing back and forth constantly.
Yeah, and that's awesome how that works, and how, we're in each other's lives for multiple times. I mean, throughout our lives, we seem to have the same circles going, and sometimes you're the mother or they're the mother, and it just amazes me how that works, and the whole past life thing. I never really experienced it until my daughter Lily was born, and at 7 days old, I brought her home, and she's reaching her arms above, and like she's trying to sit up at only 7 days old, and doing the back and forth with her arms, going back to her chest and up to the sky, trying to sit up. And I'm like, you're too young to even be trying to do that. You don't even know what sitting is at this point. And as she got older, she took a lanyard from a keychain, and she had said, I have to tie off my leg or I'll bleed out to death at only 2 years old. And she's also said, remember when I was a man and I was older and I wore glasses, and it just amazes me. Yeah.
Oh, they do have the memories. They come in with a lot. Yes, absolutely. I remember sitting in the high chair. My dad told me I could sit as long as I wanted to, but I had to eat the food. And then he came in, he was furious that I didn't eat it yet. And I thought to myself, well, you told me what the rules were. I could sit here as long as I wanted. And he's like, that's it. You have to eat it. And I thought, wait a minute, you changed the rules. You just told me I could sit as long as I wanted. I was like 2, 3 years old, and I was fully aware of what he was talking about. I was just like, wait a minute. You gave me a command and said I could do this. Now you're changing your mind? I just remember it very vividly.
That's funny. You're like, what exactly is happening? I'm so confused.
Like, okay, I'll eat it, but just tell me next time.
It looks like we have Christopher on the phone. Chris, are you there?
Hey, Christopher.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, Tess.
Hey, Chris. How's it going?
Going all right. Nice to talk to you all.
You as well. What's your question for Lauralee?
Yeah, I keep having dreams about a coat of arms, and I suspect it's a past life, and it also is connected to me, to his current life. I wonder if you know where it comes from, what part of the world.
Okay. I don't have the visual image in front of me, but I do feel like it's connected to Ireland. And what I feel like it is a past life. I don't feel like it's so much a current one, but it does feel like royalty. And part of you has a little bit of doubt, like, wow, how could I be connected to royalty? Well, we choose different experiences, different lifetimes to try out different things. So I don't see the royalty in this lifetime. It doesn't mean that your relatives passed it on. It just means that particular life you chose that. But I feel like some of your consciousness this lifetime is missing that era. It's like a memory that's bleeding into this life that is from another life. So your awareness is opening up and you're saying, wow, I liked it when I was that way. Not so much royalty and people kissing the ring type thing, but just that you appreciated where and when you were. And sometimes life this time seems a little difficult. So you're trying to figure out, how do you get back to that place in your life where that coat of arms is? I mean, not like traveling in time, but how to feel that comfort again without having the royalty. So I'd say finding a way to appreciate what's all around you. So go ahead.
It's really, really weird, because I recently found relatives in this current life that are related to the first kings of Ireland, the Kelly family.
Okay.
And a couple others. It's like me being born here as a serf, basically. I can't wrap around it, even though I know it's correct, because I went through Ancestry and the whole bit.
Right.
But the cognitive dissonance is a really powerful impediment.
I feel like you came in to be a protector, and you didn't need a lot of skills. It's sort of like the guards in England with the big black hats, the tall hats. Like, you can still be a very alert servant and do a lot of things, but not have to have a lot of experience. But you can step in and save people instantly if you feel it's necessary. But your skill set is unique for this lifetime, that you didn't say to yourself, I need to do anything particular, but I want to protect. So however that's going to unfold, it could be in many different forms, but it's almost a natural instinct to jump forward when nobody else will. Like you could probably be a great fireman and jump into a fire, and no one else wants to do that because it's dangerous, but you're like, no, I have to protect. And so it feels like you know what you need to do.
Yeah, it really feels like it. It's almost like this is an affirmation of what I'm learning. I'm not crazy.
No, I did pick up the royalty right away. Yes.
Wow. I thank you very much.
You're welcome, Christopher. I'll do a little research on the Ireland royalty, and maybe if you want to take a vacation there just to check it out. It doesn't mean it's going to change what's going on in your life, but it might be a fun adventure just to just go explore a little bit.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Ireland, but never went to Monaco, where I found royal cousins. And I'd like to visit all three, see what happens to me.
Okay, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It might be healing too.
Yes, I believe so.
I appreciate your help.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
You need my contact info?
You can go ahead and try to get a hold of her on her website or possibly through email from a contact page on there. But yeah, please don't give out your contact info on the radio.
I'll give it to you guys online after the show.
Okay, sounds great, Chris. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. He's been doing a lot of homework on his family history, and he did find royalty in there still today. So that's pretty awesome that you picked up on that.
Yeah. No, it was a memory of, like, he knew what it felt like to be royalty and wanting to psychologically embrace that again. And so it's not a haunting, but it's like a knowing something and saying, but I've lived it, even though I don't have that experience logged in this lifetime. I know what it's like. I can tell you, I could describe it. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
So Dennis in the chat room is saying how the readings are somewhat sporadic, and he's wondering what's with the sporadic triggers. Is it dependent on the individual, or is that just how it comes through sometimes? Could you explain that a little bit?
Okay, Dennis. When I think of something that's sporadic, it's more when you're open to it. So when I suggested to my students to practice getting messages or getting confirmation, the first thing in the morning, last thing at night, when we're not busy doing something and filling our heads, or some people will say the shower or driving, when your mind is consciously connected to something else to distract it so you can be receptive, then you're going to be more open to taking in the intuition and thoughts, ideas, impressions. But the sporadic part of it, I feel like it's more when you're paying more attention is when it's coming in. So it's not a bad thing. It's not so much a blockage as the more you practice, the more you use it, the more you set your intention to receive, the more often you're going to see it coming until it becomes a habit. And then every day, even some of the simplest things, I'll be going out the door and they're like, did you grab your bottle of water? And I'm like, oh yeah, I live in the desert. I forgot the water. So it's almost like I have extra people following me around. They're not alive, but they're reminding me because I'm open to it. So I just practice interacting constantly. Like, you can't see me, but I know you're out there because I can feel you. So if you think of it that way, just have a conversation. You don't have to figure out where they're hanging out or how to talk to them. Just keep interacting, because the main thing, Dennis, is that they need you to acknowledge what you're receiving. And as soon as you say, yeah, I heard about taking the water bottle. Thanks, I appreciate it. They're like, oh, good, they got that. Now I can give some more information.
That's awesome. We have a new caller here from a 780 area code.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good, how are you?
Oh, not too bad. Craig from Canada.
Hey, Craig from Canada.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, so I was just wondering if you could maybe just go into like a random past life for me. That'd be neat.
Sure. So, Craig, let's see what's most important for you today. I'm seeing you as a worker in a mine, because I'm seeing the wooden bin with the wheels on it that was on the track that they would have that went deep into the shaft of the mine. And I see you filling up the bin, and you're not happy, but I feel like you were the male provider for the family, and you knew you had to do this. But it's almost like that phrase you've heard in history, oh, there's gold in them there hills. Like you want to keep digging to help find the minerals, the things that are in this mine, because you know it's valuable. But at the same time, it's hard work, it's a burden, you don't like it, you want to quit, you want to just walk away from it all. But what you learned was not the hard work part of it, but the appreciation for life. Because when you went home to your family, I'm seeing a wife and a daughter. I'm also seeing the daughter having a limp. So something happened to the leg, so she was going to have a bit of a handicap later in her life. But the warm embrace and the girl saying, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. And so it was all worth that laboring just for the love that was poured over you, because you were acknowledged tremendously for that extra effort you were putting in. And I feel like towards the latter part of your life, it did lighten up. It was before retirement age that you began to live more comfortably, and then you could hire other people to do the labor. So it's more looking at a goal and saying, geez, will I ever lift up this heaviness? Will I ever get to the golden nugget? Will I ever have, a smoother life? And it's just putting it together and chipping away at it till it works better for you. I'll give you an example. I have a client that's in film, and there's one they're working on currently, but it's like years in the making. But yet I have the sense of it with a big breakthrough. And I keep encouraging him because I'm like, it's so close to actually happening. And he can't see it, but I can. So once it unfolds, I'm going to say, okay, this is why I kept nudging you, because it already had a great momentum to actually happen. But yet once it does, then you get the smooth ride. Sort of like a roller coaster, clicking up, click, 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 and then zoom, that comes down the other side. It's a lot of effort to get to the top, but once you do, then it's not as hard afterwards.
Very cool. I can see some symbolism in that can reflect towards my current life. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a great night.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you too,
Craig. Have a great night. All right, our next question comes from Kevin J., and he's wondering if he can get a general or past life reading. Please.
Okay, Kevin J. I know you're out there because I can feel you. That's the good part. Your energy is open, and you're alive and vibrant, but sometimes you don't feel that way. You feel, and pardon my French, but you feel like a dork. Now, I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, but it's just sometimes we have an inner critic that says, oh, you're stupid, you didn't do it right. So it's not that I want you to feel bad. It's just that you're going to shake that off. You're going to release that part of you that doesn't fully believe in yourself sometimes. And that word is going to fade away. You're not going to feel that way much longer. So if you find yourself every now and then going, oh, why did I do that? You go, you know what? I did it for a reason. I just don't know what the reason is right now. So that just feels like you moving through a phase rather than continuing it and having it repeat and chip away at you. Because it doesn't belong to you. Somebody somewhere criticized you and it stuck and you didn't clip it away. Just take your index finger and your middle finger, clip them together like scissors and say, I'm releasing it right now. It no longer belongs to me. It's not mine. Go away. So let's quickly step into a past life for you. I'm seeing you as a soldier. And I'm seeing a red uniform, but it's not the red coats in the Civil War. I'm not a history buff, so bear with me on this one. I'm seeing a very long, it looks like a gun with a bayonet sticking out of it, but it's very tall, like longer than usual. And again, I don't know the era to explain it to you. Feels more European. Let's see, what are you doing here? You're protecting, but I also feel like there's a part of you that's scared that you might get hurt, even though I feel like you volunteered. I don't feel like it was a draft that you were forced into it, but there's a part of you that was youthful enough that you're like, oh, I want to do this, but oh my God, it's scary. So it's not the fear that we're focusing on, but that you did step forward, that you did want to protect. And I feel like you had to kill a man. Somebody was coming in from what you were protecting, because I feel like it was more people than it was property. And you felt really, really bad. The shedding of the blood, and it was your duty. But at the same time, you vowed that you wouldn't fight again. I mean, you would during that stint that you volunteered, but from then on, other lifetimes, you said, I'm going to find another way to solve this. And when you saw Gandhi have everybody kneel down and that horses wouldn't step on them, because the horses don't do that if there's stones on the ground or, what the people represented to the horse, that they found a peaceful way to fight rather than to use the guns or other means. And so your soul's like, I did the killing, I didn't like it, I don't want to do that again, but I learned from it. So it's not so much that you harmed a soul, is that your soul got a growth that you wouldn't normally have gotten if you didn't go through that particular experience. Now the soul that you killed came in as a deviant soul to allow people like yourself to have a challenge, to have a rough experience, even though that soul, when they passed, felt benevolent as they passed on to the other side. So it wasn't like a demon, or I don't even know what you call it, but just that it was their purpose to come up against you so you could have your side of it and they could have their side of it. So shake that one off, because it doesn't need to be negative. It's just you learned a great deal from it, even though you were youthful and scared. I hope that gave you a little insight into a tidbit of your past.
That's awesome. We have another question here from Joseph, and he says, I regularly practice Zazen or Zen meditation. I do it to connect to my holy guardian angel. I don't feel that I've been successful. Do you have any advice for him personally? Is he doing it properly?
Okay, Joseph. First of all, I'm going to wag my finger at you and say, stop trying so hard. And I'm saying that lovingly. I am not familiar with the Buddhist or the Zen meditation that you're talking about, the Zazen. I'd have to look that one up. A lot of times a meditation is to quiet the mind or to get centered and focused and balanced. So you've got to say to yourself, is this something that I really resonate with? Because some people try to count in their minds and clear all the thoughts by just counting numbers, so the numbers are the only thing they're thinking of, but they're thinking. They're not just calming things. They're calculating and trying to remember what number they're on. So in this particular type of meditation, because I'm not familiar with it, so I'll have to go straight intuition without any explanation, I'll have to take a look here. So give me a second. I want to say this particular type of Zen meditation is about the word discipline. And discipline is more focusing without letting the distractions throw you off balance. Now, that's sort of like a martial arts. Someone mentioned to me one time that a black belt is someone that's done the moves over and over and over and over again. It's not how many times they did the moves, but that it's so automatic that they're not thinking, that it's a knee-jerk reaction. As soon as something takes a certain action, their body reacts instantaneously. It's like that Karate Kid movie, wax on, wax off. So that the moment they need that action, it triggers some neural pathway that says, do this movement. They don't even think about it or try to retrieve the memory. It's just, boom, it happens. So that's what I think is going on with you. So good luck with that. And if you find you're still struggling with it, you still want to do it, find someone that has mastered it and ask them to coach you or explain to you how they mastered it. But I would suggest if you're still struggling and it's just too much because you're frustrated, pick a different type of meditation that you do resonate with.
That's some great advice. Kat was asking in the chat room, why is my spirit guide an ascended master?
Okay, Kat, first of all, I'm going to say jokingly, accept it. That would be awesome to have an ascended master. Don't even think about logical. I feel like we can be coached and guided by some really powerful beings if we're open to it. I do feel like you've been in Atlantis before, and you were what I would call a chemist. That's the best term I have for it. It wasn't exactly what you were, but I think maybe the term is alchemist, but it just feels like you had a lot of power and you misused a little bit of it, but you were still leaning towards the benevolent side of things. And you said to yourself, if I ever get a chance to come back, I'm going to ask for a higher guidance so I don't mess up again. Because I don't like the results of what I saw happen. I mean, you weren't responsible for going under the water, so don't take that on. But it does feel like there's a part of you that wanted to make a greater impact this time, and you wanted higher guidance to keep you on track and envelop you so that you're merging with their consciousness, and then that way you can help in a greater way, because then you don't have to fumble around in an earth body and learn it all yourself, that you're actually using some of their experience. I think the phrase is, I'm learning from what other people have done so I don't have to do it, other people's experiences, so we don't have to struggle and trip and fall and figure it all out. So you're not reinventing the wheel, you're just using someone else's previous experience. So I hope that's cleared it up a little bit for you. If not, write down another message and I'll tap in again.
That's awesome. And she was having an issue remembering the name you had given her earlier for her guide. Do you happen to remember that?
I wrote it down. It's Sanat, S-A-N-A-T, Kumara, K-U-M-A-R-A.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you wrote that down because I didn't. I'm doing a million other things here all at once, and I'm grateful that you did that. And let's see. I'm not seeing any more questions in our chat room. So as we're in our last 4 minutes of the show, do you have any major key pointers or something that you feel that our guests should know and apply in their everyday lives to help them through this harsh world?
Well, it's a challenge to be here with all of the upheaval. I like to think about when the biblical, I want to say predictions, I'm trying to think of the word, but it's where they say there's 2,000 years of peace coming, is that sometimes we need the turmoil and the shakeup before we see better times. So I'm not real religious, but it's just this sense of the prophets saying, hey, you know, this is a possibility, but that your goal of being here is to have the most ultimate experience that you can have, even in the upheaval. Because some people go, oh my God, look who's president, or look what happened here, look what happened there, you know, this disaster wiped out 2,000 people. Then my first thought is, did they get to heaven? I'm not worried about that they died or it was a tragedy. Let's send them on to the light. Let's say, okay, then they can be in spirit to help reach back to us and help us. But it's not about the struggle. It's about what can you do within the struggle that you can be a beacon, a light, and send out that vibration so that it's a residual effect. It's like the butterfly effect. When you make a difference, then that adds to the next person. Even if you're not touching them or speaking to them, when they walk by you, they feel your aura and your higher vibration, so they pick up on it and they feel better. It's like the 100th monkey concept, that once there's a certain higher vibration, then it spreads all over the planet. That it's like I said with the starfish, that the girl's throwing them back in. She said, well, I made a difference to that one. So you can make a difference to your neighbor, your friend, even me here tonight. I don't know the full audience that I'm going to reach, but I do know that I made a difference because I gave you a tidbit, a golden nugget, a little something. And I don't know all of who it's going to radiate out to, but it's my job to give the message. What you do with it's up to you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do feel like life is a gift and we should treat it as such. And when we get sad and we think about our loved ones that we've lost or ones that have taken their own life, I always try to remember, to live my life for them in the way that, they should have lived it, in the ways that will make them happy in the end, and in turn make myself happy and spread the light to everyone. And in this world, we need to embrace each other and help lift each other up above this darkness. So in our last minute here, Lauralee, would you like to again share your book, where it's available, and also your website?
Okay, the website is www.psychicextraordinaire.com. If you have trouble spelling that, just write www.asklauralee.com. That's ASKLAURALEE.com, and it'll reroute you to Psychic Extraordinaire. My book can be reached with a link that's on the website, or you can go directly to Amazon.com. The title is How to Develop Your Psychic Senses, and it's available in hard copy or in Kindle, and that's how you can reach me.
That's awesome. And are you located in Phoenix, or where exactly can someone find you if they wanted to come in and visit you for a reading?
I am located in Phoenix. It's considered North Phoenix, near the Paradise Valley Mall. I do work out of my apartment, and that contact information is all on my website. So you can look there, or you can call me at 480-905-8433.
Thank you so much again, Lauralee, for coming out and for your words of wisdom and of course your readings for everyone. I think you pretty much hit home with them, and I really do appreciate you being on the show, and I hope to someday have you back again.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I could help.
Thank you so much, Lauralee. Have a great night.
You too, Tessa.
And thank you to everyone in SOR, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, and wherever else you may be listening in the universe. I had a wonderful time, and it was my pleasure, literally and figuratively. And I can't wait to do it again next Sunday on Spaced Out Sundays here at spacedoutradio.com. Until next time, guys, nighty-night, love and light to all my space cases. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we own the night. You guys have a wonderful evening, an amazing week, and I'll talk to you guys next Sunday. Good night.
ships into the rocks, and from the cliffs they watch us sink down in our thorny crowns. Beggars dressed as emperors, offering you 7 wonders, promising the deepest thunder. We'll tell you you're the perfect girl, we'll crawl for miles through the sand to win your hand and be your man.